What if the most powerful stories in art had no people, no landscapes, no visible reality at all? Just shapes, lines, and colors that could shake the world. Picture the early 20th century. Europe was in chaos. Politics shifting, technology racing ahead, traditions collapsing. For centuries, painting had shown life as it looked. Kings, landscapes, myths. But suddenly, that felt outdated. Artists began asking, why copy reality when reality itself was breaking apart? This is where geometric abstraction was born. It wasn't just a style, it was rebellion. Instead of chasing likeness, artists turned to pure forms, squares, circles, triangles, and bold colors. It was art stripped to its essence, like music without lyrics. One of the sparks came from Kazimir Malevich, who stunned audiences in 1915 with his black square on a white canvas. At first, it seemed absurd, like a blank page, but Malevich called it the 0 point of painting. He wasn't showing what we see, he was showing what remains when everything else is gone. This became the foundation of suprematism, one of the earliest abstract movements. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, Piet Mondrian was breaking reality into grids of red, blue, yellow, and black. Works like composition with red, blue, and yellow looked mechanical, almost mathematical. But underneath was a spiritual search for balance, an attempt to reflect harmony in a fractured world. For these artists, shapes and colors weren't decoration. A red square or vertical line could hold as much emotion as a portrait. Geometric abstraction wasn't running away from life. It was trying to rebuild it, one shape at a time. And audiences reacted fiercely. Some saw genius. Others thought it was nonsense. But either way, the fire had been lit. By the early 1900s, there was another reason abstraction made sense: photography. Why spend weeks painting a portrait when a camera could capture it instantly? Artists needed a new purpose. Geometric abstraction became the answer. Geometry has power because it's universal. A triangle doesn't age, a circle belongs to no single culture. By stripping away realism, artists tapped into something timeless. A blue square wasn't about a house or the sky. It was about the feeling stirred inside you. There was politics too. In Russia, Malevich saw abstraction as liberation. No tsars, no peasants, just pure form. In Europe, Mondrian's grids were a visual philosophy of order amid chaos. These weren't just paintings for galleries, they were arguments about how to live. Think about it. When life feels chaotic, people crave order. And when order feels oppressive, people crave freedom. Geometric abstraction managed to offer both, strict lines and shapes that somehow carried infinite possibility. That's why it spoke louder than realism, and yet, this clarity came at a cost. For the average viewer, staring at a canvas of lines and squares felt alien, almost hostile. Was it really art, or just decoration? This tension would follow the movement wherever it spread, pulling more artists into the debate. Every movement needs its pioneers, and geometric abstraction had some unforgettable voices. We already touched on Malevich and Mondrian, but they were just the beginning. In Germany, the Bauhaus school took geometry and turned it into a philosophy for living. Teachers like Wassily Kandinsky and Paul Klee pushed students to think of shapes and colors as a visual language. For them, a circle could sound like a soft note, while a sharp diagonal might feel like a burst of energy. Bauhaus didn't stop at paintings, it bled into architecture, furniture, typography. The idea was simple. If geometry could shape art, it could also shape the way we live every day. Then came Theo van Doesburg, a fellow Dutch artist who, alongside Mondrian, co-founded the group De Stijl. But unlike Mondrian's strict grids, van Doesburg embraced diagonals and broke the rules, injecting movement into stillness. Their push and pull shaped the identity of modern design. Across the Atlantic, things took a new twist. In the 1930s and 40s, artists like Josef Albers brought European abstraction to America. His famous series, Homage to the Square, endless variations of colored squares nested inside each other, became meditations on how perception changes with context. The same red could look bright in one painting and dull in another, proving that reality is always relative. And then there's Frank Stella, an American painter who exploded onto the scene in the late 1950s. His motto was blunt: "What you see is what you see. No hidden symbols, no grand theories, just shapes and lines, unapologetically bold." His massive, shaped canvases broke the illusion of the frame itself, pushing abstraction into a new dimension. These artists didn't agree on everything. Some wanted to express spirituality, others focused on pure perception, others wanted clarity stripped of all meaning. But together, they stretched geometric abstraction into a global conversation, one that spilled into design, fashion, and even the cities we live in. And here's the twist. While their work seemed cold and mechanical at first glance, they were often deeply emotional, even utopian. They weren't painting rectangles for the sake of rectangles. They were trying to imagine a new world, one shape at a time. At first glance, geometric abstraction looks stripped of meaning, just lines, just colors, just shapes. But here's the catch. Those simple elements carry heavy symbolism. Take color. Mondrian wasn't picking red, blue, and yellow at random. For him, those were the primary building blocks of the universe. Pure, elemental, uncorrupted. By arranging them with black lines, he thought he was creating a kind of visual order that reflected universal harmony. His grids weren't about city blocks or windows. They were about balance in a fractured world. Malevich's black square, on the other hand, was almost a declaration of war against meaning itself. By painting a void, he was saying, forget the old rules, forget the weight of history. This is the beginning of something new. To his audience, the square wasn't empty. It was a doorway to a different way of seeing. Then there's Albers and his nested squares. On the surface, they're just boxes within boxes. But if you stare long enough, you notice how colors shift, vibrate, or retreat depending on their neighbors. His hidden message? Perception is never fixed. What you think you see is shaped by context, by contrast, by your own mind. Even Stella's work, which claimed to be just what you see, still hinted at something deeper. By flattening painting into pure geometry, he forced us to confront art as an object, not an illusion. The message was blunt but powerful. Stop searching for hidden narratives, because sometimes the truth is right in front of you. That's the beauty of geometric abstraction. The shapes look cold, but the meanings run hot. They carry spiritual aspirations, philosophical debates, and psychological experiments, all hidden behind squares, circles, and lines. And here's where the suspense builds. These messages didn't just stay in galleries. They started leaking into everyday life, onto buildings, posters, logos, even the clothes people wore. Geometry wasn't just art anymore. It was becoming the visual language of the modern world. Look around you right now, your phone screen, the buildings in your city, the logo on your coffee cup. Chances are, they all carry the DNA of geometric abstraction. When Bauhaus ideas migrated to design and architecture, they reshaped modern life. Skyscrapers with clean lines, minimalist furniture, typography built from geometric grids, all of that traces back to the belief that form and function could speak through geometry. What started as radical art experiments ended up setting the tone for modern design. In fashion, bold patterns of stripes, locks, and grids borrowed straight from Mondrian and de style. Even pop culture caught on. Remember Yves Saint Laurent's Mondrian dress in the 1960s? That wasn't just clothing. It was proof that geometric abstraction had become a universal style language. Corporate logos also leaned in. Think about brands like Microsoft, Google, or countless tech companies. Their icons and color schemes, simple, flat, geometric, echo the same principles artists were testing a century ago. Clean shapes communicate trust, order, and clarity in ways realism can't. And here's the kicker. In the digital age, geometry is everywhere. From UI design to NFTs, artists and designers keep returning to grids, circles, and lines. Why? Because simplicity cuts through noise. The same reason Malevich and Mondrian stripped art to its essence is the same reason we swipe through flat, geometric app icons today. So when you scroll past a sleek logo or see a minimalist gallery wall, you're not just looking at modern taste. You're witnessing the afterlife of geometric abstraction. A movement that once shocked audiences with meaningless squares ended up shaping how we see and interact with almost everything. And the real suspense is this: if geometry already rebuilt the 20th century, what hidden shapes might define the future? Geometric abstraction began as rebellion, artists stripping reality down to its bones with nothing but lines, colors, and shapes. What started as controversy became a language that built our cities, our screens, even our fashion. The movement proved you don't need figures or landscapes to tell a story. Sometimes, the simplest forms hold the deepest truths. If this journey through shapes and colors opened your eyes, don't stop here. Subscribe for more art stories that reveal the hidden forces shaping how we see the world, and keep exploring the geometry all around you.